Hello, my name is David Mangan, and I am here to try to convince you to talk to your kids about the dangers of marijuana. And no, this is not a 1950s PSA about the danger of the devil's lettuce. As of today, there are 38 states that have legalized marijuana for medicinal use, and there are 24 states that have legalized it for recreational use. It's safe to say that marijuana now is easier to get than any time in my lifetime. So what does that mean for you? Well, if you or your children begin using marijuana, marijuana begins to affect your cognition. I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but this is a scan of actually a perfectly healthy brain, awake and asleep, 16-year-old male. According to the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry, marijuana use in adolescents is associated with reduced neurocognitive function. Basically, it makes it harder to think. THC is a fat-soluble drug. Your brain is composed 2/3 of fat. When you introduce THC into it, it lingers. It's not like a drug such as alcohol or nicotine. Those are water-soluble, which means your body can flush it out in about 24 hours if you drink enough water. Can't do that with THC. So, the frontal cortex controls your logic, your processing, future thinking. When you begin to introduce THC into that, you have shorter attention spans, distractibility, unavailability of emotions, misperceptions, poor judgment. Basically, you've taken the logic center of your brain in the frontal cortex, you've introduced THC into it, and that chemical is now disrupting the natural flow of neurons and electrical impulses. Now, again, it's kind of hard to see, so I'll just pick it up and show you. This is the brain of a 16-year-old who's been using cannabis, marijuana, for 2 years, meaning he started smoking at age 14. Compare that to this next picture. Just compare the two. Non-marijuana use, marijuana use. You can actually see what goes on in the brain. So, this photo here was from the basal ganglia. Okay, so the basal ganglia controls speech, motion. It controls process learning, storage patterns, learned behavior. When you interrupt that, you get impairment of procedural learning, impairment of habit learning, anxiety, panic attacks. Those are controlled by the basal ganglia. When you introduce THC to it, you actually become anxious and have panic attacks. Cannabis use is associated with schizophrenia and other mental disorders. So they did a study in Denmark where they basically looked at everybody between the years of 1972 and 2021. And then they looked at who developed schizophrenia. And then they delved deeper into how many of those people who developed schizophrenia also used marijuana. And what they found was that there is an association between marijuana use and schizophrenia. Males are more susceptible. And they concluded that 20% of the schizophrenia diagnoses could have been avoided by avoiding cannabis use. National Academy of Medicine, cannabis use is likely to increase the development of schizophrenia and other psychoses. The higher the use, the greater the risk. And Frontiers of Forensic Pathology, young men with psychoses who use cannabis were 50% more likely to become violent. So the old canard of smoke a joint and chill out does not apply. Cannabis use has other health risks associated with it. This one I actually have to read off the paper because it's cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Okay, causes nausea, causes vomiting, has actually caused the death of some people because of dehydration associated with the vomiting. So the old canard that nobody ever died from smoking a joint, well, maybe not one, but people have died from their marijuana use. Cannabis is associated with lesser testosterone. Lesser testosterone means a lower sperm count, lower fertility. Cannabis use is associated with paranoia. Okay, again, you're affecting the basal ganglia of the brain. So, now what? Well, I can assure you that if you don't talk to your kids about marijuana, somebody will. My parents never used marijuana when I was growing up. They were marathon runners. They lived a clean, healthy life. But everybody at school was talking to me about marijuana. Everybody at school was trying to get me to use it. My own brother fell prey to that. And I think it was watching my brother that stopped me from using it. But I can assure you, if you don't talk to your kids about marijuana, somebody will. And it might not be the person that you want talking to them about it. So it is important to communicate to your kids and family that marijuana is not safe. You've probably already thought about how you're going to have the sex talk with them, right? I mean, these are things that parents have to talk to kids about. Marijuana use is just as important as that sex talk, possibly even more. Use active listening, be empathetic, put yourself in their shoes. You know, as you're trying to convince them, you also have to think about what tactics and logic you can use to convince them. Be calm, relax, do it in a comfortable setting, and be aware of their body language. Make sure that they're actually absorbing the information. A couple of points that people have used on me as I've talked to them about marijuana. Well, but it's natural. I can remember comedian Jay Moore had a show where he said, well, it's natural, man. It's a plant. You throw the seeds on the ground and it grows up. Tobacco is also natural. I don't see anybody out there advocating for the use of cigarettes. But it's legal. Yeah, well, a lot of things that are not good for you are legal. I mean, states have decriminalized adultery, meaning adultery is now legal, but nobody is out there advocating that just because it's legal, it's a good thing. So, hopefully, you're better armed to have that discussion with your kids and with your family. Marijuana is not safe. Its use inhibits cognition. It inhibits the emotional and mental growth that cognition brings with it. And talking to your family about it might be one of the most important things that you ever do for them before they get introduced to marijuana by their friends or by their schoolmates. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you don't do the prevention, somebody else might. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you.